the company three's a crowd. Here we are,
Yes.
the three people on the grey matter. I'm Adnan, my co-host,
Khurram Khalimi.
and our guest,
Keta Bagashvili.
Keta. Thank you very much for being on our show today.
Thank you so much for
I
inviting.
heard so much about you. I heard you speak 2 weeks back, and I was blown away. I thought that we're gonna have you on our show.
It
You
is
guys
my
will
honor.
learn that it's not a journey that started 2-3 years ago. It started, I believe, more than 10 years ago, when Keta was only 13 when she built her first online community. And I'll have Keta tell us how she began.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting once again, and it is my pleasure to be here. I've heard so much about your company and about what you're building, guys, and this podcast, and I have a lot of positive feelings towards what you guys are building. So I feel very, very honored to be sitting here today with you. So my journey starts when I was 13. So when I'm 27 now, and when people ask me, oh, like, how do you do your content? Like, when did it appear? When did it come to your life? I'm like, I don't even remember myself without it. So I started doing content and building like this girl communities online when I was 13 years old. It's really funny story because I started doing that because I used to love writing, and I used to love writing fan fictions, and I was writing about this boy band, and then all the fans were reading my fan fiction. So that is how I started putting myself out online, and then integrating this kind of fan fictions with different social media content, like videos and like funny memes and like edited whatever pictures, blah blah blah. And that was like the first appearance of me on social media. Although the real story starts when I was already 19, and that's when I started building my first actual like the biggest women community that I built, and it was called, it is still working and existing, it's called Beauty Lab, and it is the biggest women community in the country of Georgia, encompassing around 10% of Georgian female population till this day. I started doing that when I was 19 in 2017, and 2 years later I turned that into an ad agency for the beauty companies, which meant that I was basically the bridge between the beauty companies and the customers, aka women.
And how many people you connected and how many followers you reached in that?
At this point, it already has around 10% of Georgian female population, this community itself, which would be around like 150k women. And
That's a big number.
It is for a small
and I love
country.
the way how you represented the percentage of the women population in a country.
Yeah, because like there's only 3.5 million people living in my country. So obviously, when I say
So pretty much the same amount of people living in Manhattan.
Exactly, exactly. So when I say these numbers, it doesn't really sound big for American, because obviously the way we see things and the numbers and the scale we see things here is different from the small country that I'm from. Anyways, yeah, so then I turned this community into this beauty ad agency, and then later I also built a tech company for beauty salons and aesthetic centers, which was an online reservation platform, and it also had a CRM as a background for the beauty salons itself to manage the manually handled processes, starting from accounting, scheduling, and so on and so on. And yeah, so that was the first part of my adventure in content/tech.
And you achieved all of that before you went to college.
No, I was doing that while I was in college. So I started when I was 19, and then by the time I was 24, all of this already had happened. And when I was 24, that's when I moved to New York. Like I kind of like closed the chapter back home while still working on it remotely from the States, but still like I closed a lot of chapters, and I realized that either I had to stay home and work on the projects that I was working on, and max probably like expand to CIS countries, which is amazing, but I guess deep down I just wanted to play on the bigger market and like learn more. And previously we had this conversation about how important it was for me, the self-discovery journey that I was trying to have, which I was not really able to fully get in my small country. So there was an aspect of like a real personal self-developing stage in my life as well. But on the other hand, obviously the business side, which was basically on working and playing on the bigger market. So that's when I moved to the States. That's when I moved to New York to attend, to like take my master's.
How did you get to technology, CRM in the beauty salon industry? So why you made that move and how, like, at that stage, what vision you had that how technology will impact the whole makeup and the salon thing?
Yeah, so being in the beauty industry a few years before I would make that decision actually really, really helped me to get to know the industry really well. So not only on the business side, but on the customer side as well, because once again, I was the bridge between these two sides, right? On one hand, I was working on daily basis with like hundreds of thousands of women. And on the other hand, I was working with these beauty salon owners, but not only owners, but the people who would do my hair, people who would do my nails. I would spend hours and hours every week sitting in a salon, doing advertisements for these people while getting the procedures and talking and hearing their voices. So on one hand, I learned from the business side that they are really there was a huge need in how they would be able to like make the scheduling process easier for themselves while saving a lot of time, which obviously means money. And on the other hand, for the customers, it was like, okay, they needed like an Uber, they would like call and order online. They needed food, they could get online. They needed whatever, like so many different industries were already digitalizing, while beauty, which is something that every single woman, on every second woman needs, was still not digitalized. So I realized
Don't
that
leave us men out. You also spend
yeah,
time.
no, obviously, but I was mainly, clearly, I was getting these comments all the time. I was a little like bullying the men, but in the sense of like not really putting too much effort and like.
We don't need much
noticed,
effort.
but I'm sure you guys can take care of each other and it's yourself. But anyways, yeah. So I realized that there was a huge need from both of the sides, and that's when I started building. I realized that digitalization of this industry was something that no one has done before. So I could have been the first one in my country and region, and I did a lot of research. I found companies that have already been founded and successful in Europe and Asia. So I took their examples to build the platform, and my vision was once again to digitalize and to create the new rules in the beauty industry, which was instead of calling and then dumping someone that you've made a reservation with, making things faster and easier by just looking up salons and available salons around you on the map, and then you being charged, for example, if you're not going to show up, because people have to pay for their like
reservations.
yeah,
Fine.
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
Of course, they're blocked and they are not taking any other customer at that time.
Exactly.
So I had a question. When you started this whole 150,000 community, and then you turned it into a tech company for online, so for the ad space, did you bring that with you to the US?
Yes, I brought it with myself in the US in two sides, in two ways. First, I kept working on it for the last 3 years and I kept making money, which sometimes meant waking up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, because obviously there's 9 hours difference. So it was not easy, but I'm specifically underlying this part because I hate waking up.
Early,
I hate not being asleep at night. But anyways, there was one thing. And another thing was that I just brought this experience and expertise with myself. So every time I would enter a room, you don't necessarily need to build the same thing in a different country. Although I did write the whole like business plan and everything on how you could do the same exact thing in the United States.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I brought from home was experience, and it was confidence that it gave me and the knowledge. So for me, I don't necessarily need to open a door and be like, hey, this is what I built in the United States,
Not gonna
as much as
replicate
it
it.
is very important. But I have a bigger thing, which is the knowledge and education and the confidence that I have built throughout these years. So now I can talk about the industries with the confidence because I know what I'm talking about. So that is what I brought here. And that is the reason why I didn't come to the United States earlier than that, because I was trying to get as much experience in my field as possible. So when I would come here, when I start talking to someone, I would be able to talk about something deeply. So
Yeah, and you would be
if I answer your question.
So the people who can build from scratch from day one, they can rebuild a lot of new things.
Yes.
So building from scratch is
Yes,
big.
because it is, I always say, you're not what you have built, but you're the ability that made you build something. So if you were able to do it somewhere else, there's a high chance that you're going to be able to rebuild it. It does take a lot of time, and it does take a lot of nerves and a lot of sweat, but it is possible, because people fundamentally are the same as much as like culture is different in different countries and the way people consume things might be different, but the needs at the end of the day are basic. The needs are fundamentally same in every country for people, the way they're like asking for things, the way they are needing things. They consume in different way depending on culture, but they need the same things. So once you realize that, then life becomes easier.
So you right now sit on a gold mine. You are on 10% of impact. That's what I would call. So is there a pivot in place that you have planned?
Yeah, so I have more followers on social media than that. I have around 500,000 followers combined together on different platforms. So that specific one is where I started my business, but I have like TikTok with around like 160K followers, which is like a separate following and a separate audience, I would say. But yeah, like once you create a brand from yourself and once your voice, your manners, your approaches, your face becomes recognizable, then you can take it to any stage. So for example, I've used my voice against the government in my country, which is not necessarily something that you do in beauty at all, but I have used it and I keep using it on daily basis, talking about the stuff that I like or things that I specifically don't like.
Yeah.
And I guess this is also something that you learn from a small country, like growing up in a small country, that whatever assets you have, anything, sometimes it can just be your phone and the camera. If there's like 100 people listening to you, go and talk. So if I have an influence over 500,000 followers in my country, how can I not talk about things that bothers me and things that like is making the development of my country like kind of slower,
It's interesting you mentioned something called assets. Yeah. And while we were setting up, you mentioned that you now have your own voice where you help people build digital assets.
Yeah.
Tell us.
Yeah, so, amazing. Yeah, I love talking about that. So as I said, like I started building my brand and my whole life has been working with like either teenage girls or like working with women. And then recently I started like building this new niche for myself, which is specifically content creator women or just women who are trying to build their presence online. And I'm helping them to monetize their audiences, because being in this industry for many years, I realized that making money from brand partnerships is not something that content creators do anymore, and it's not necessarily the big thing in 2025.
Okay.
But what is big in 2025 is monetizing your audience, which doesn't require hundreds of thousands of followers. So the new thing in 2025 in content is basically building a community instead of building and growing the audience in terms of like followers. So numbers don't really matter unless you are making actual money from it. So yeah, exactly. So someone can have like 5,000 followers and they might be selling digital products to hundreds of them for like higher ticket products for like, I don't know, $15,000 or something, and they can be making way more than someone who has 500,000 or 2 million followers on Instagram is only making money from brand deals. So this is something new that I'm discovering and learning constantly, and then helping other women kind of like use this knowledge and apply to their work that they're doing online.
Excellent. I mean, this is great.
Perfect.
Connecting.
I love the thing about community.
Yeah, but I mean, community-led. This is so amazing because when Facebook came around and everybody was making pages and communities, and there were like hundreds of communities, cycling community or cigar community or this or that. I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And then I feel,
now everyone understands.
I'm also a marketing professional.
Yeah.
But I never felt the need to use all those communities commercially. But you very rightly said that community actually is something which is so intrinsic to us as humans that it makes sense. We are part of community, we would trust. It's all built on trust, and I think your face and your words are what's influencing and creating a critical mass.
Yes, so I actually started this beauty community on Facebook as well. So my community was one of the first like cigar and everything communities where after I did this. And honestly, like when people ask me why did I choose to go with the community instead of like putting too much work in my personal brand, and building like a following, I always say that I am a lazy ass person. And building your own social media means that you have to show up every single day.
Yes.
But with community,
That's what Khurram tells me every day.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I still don't show up.
Yes, yeah, but you're getting better.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better.
Oh, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But with the community, it just takes you this first several months or maybe years. It took me years. And once you build it, then you can slowly disappear, but it's going to keep going. Because why? Because community is about you giving people space where they can connect with each other, not be your fans. I don't need fans. I need to be someone who gives people a space where they can connect with each other. So that is why they don't necessarily need you.
Yeah.
After all.
Basically, you're enabling people. You're giving them platform
Exactly.
to come up and speak
Exactly.
up. And one thing you highlighted about your global experience, and I also have this experience that we humans are in a lot of ways so different, but we are so much same in a lot of ways, especially demand and supply. Whatever you're doing in any country, small, big, wherever, I think demand supply is one golden rule which is ruling still.
Yeah.
On whatever you are doing, either you're building a community, a page, a Facebook page, whatever, making a product, demand supply is so critical. And everyone understands this language.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the language that we all speak.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you are a woman entrepreneur, you are a person who has huge impact in the beauty world, and as well through your personal brand, you're teaching people how to make money online through digital assets. Any content is a huge part in what you do. My question to you, is content queen or king for you?
Yeah, here's the thing. As much as I talk about how to make women more rich and what are the struggles that women are facing, blah, 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 I do not need to give genders to words. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I feel like me personally, or the women that I'm working with, we are strong enough and confident enough in the expertise, knowledge, whatever we're building so much that we don't need to be out and say that content is queen just because we want to give the feminine energy to something.
Thank you so
I don't-
much.
Like, that's not necessary. Let's focus on things that are actually
Let's focus on
important.
content.
Exactly,
Rather than what-
exactly.
yes.
Instead of like calling it names, you know.
Yeah.
So I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't even call it,
It was
king or
just a
king
spin
or
question.
queen. I know. No,
I
it was
never
an
thought about
amazing
this
question.
angle.
It was an amazing question because it also made me answer in an interesting way, right?
Yeah.
But like,
You just put out your
just
perspective.
yeah, like I guess we oftentimes miss out what is important by focusing on things that are less important. And
So you have been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. You yourself are an entrepreneur. So tell me, how important is the execution in the face of an idea?
yeah, it's obviously very important. I remember when I first came up with this idea of building online booking reservation platform for beauty salons, I remember I was eating, my mom made this like fried chicken or fried something, and I was
Okay.
eating this with this sauce that my I remember really well, okay? Because I remember this moment, like I'm eating and I'm trying to convince my mom that I have amazing ideas, and I'm just throwing these ideas out, and then at some point I'm like, fuck, I came up, bingo, like I realized that this is the most amazing idea, and
Yeah.
I'm so convinced that I'm the only person who has this idea. And I'm like, I'm genius. How come no one until 2019 thought about this amazing idea? And it took me another week, then I realized that I was around 500 million people who thought about that, because these companies have already been ideated, executed, had already raised $50 million, had thousands of followers and like customers. So obviously, idea can, like the same idea can come to hundreds of thousands of different people, but it takes this 1 or 5 or 10, whatever, who is going to execute it. So obviously, execution is everything.
I'm
Yeah, I mean, Facebook wasn't the first social media.
right.
Exactly.
We all remember Orkut.
Oh,
Do we remember
MySpace.
Orkut?
MySpace.
Orkut.
What is that?
MySpace.
Oh,
Okay.
the age difference, you know.
Probably.
So before Facebook, Orkut was the Brazilian
This is
system.
MySpace. You don't know MySpace?
No,
High five.
High five MySpace.
Yeah, high five MySpace. but
Pizza.
Orkut was the.
Orkut was big, yeah.
Orkut was, it was a public scrapbook. You can go to anyone's profile and write whatever you want to write.
Yeah.
And they can respond to you back. It was so funny, but Orkut basically did the foundation for Facebook, and
Wow.
it was a Brazilian-based system. It was so popular, it's the talk of the
They
town.
brought photos.
wow.
They brought photos
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
They brought videos on it.
Yeah.
There was chat feature. You could just look up somebody and just directly talk to them without adding.
We found a lot of, because I'm from a different generation, I was born in 82. So we were able to find a lot of our lost school friends through Orkut. That was the
Nice.
dictionary of that time.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so she's asking what Orkut.
I'm sorry.
So
Are
I'm
we
Gen
like
Z.
fine wine?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, so your ad agency platform, which is back home in Georgia, it still operates, right? How have you automated it? Or
I
is it still-
I have people that I've hired. I would say mostly account manager positions that are helping me to work with the brands that I am partnering with. Right now, I'm working on the rebranding, which I'm not going to talk about in this podcast yet because it's in the process. But
It's in the works.
Yeah. But I think in a few months we can do another podcast where I'm gonna share the
Definitely.
success of how this rebranding is gonna go. But so I have people that I'm working with. It is impossible. I started everything mostly alone. I had a partner in the beginning, and then I was doing most of the work alone. And I realized that you need people around you.
Yeah.
You cannot scale. You cannot build something big without support system at least.
Yeah, and
You have
trust-
to delegate.
You have to trust people as well.
Yeah, and you have to delegate your work. That is very
So
important.
they say that if you have to go fast, go alone. If you have to go far, go with
Exactly,
other people,
100%. Yeah.
So-
Amazing. So there are young people out there, they're watching this podcast. What would you tell them in terms of initiation? How do they go about starting something? What's your advice as a serial entrepreneur who's been doing these things since a very young age?
Yeah, I think for me, things were so much easier to do when I was younger than it is now because over the years you learn things and these things become things that are like making you like think more and like, I don't know,
More
brainstorm or whatever. When you're younger, it's easier to just go with whatever you think because you're reckless, because you're fearless. And I'm trying to like connect with my younger self all the time. So this is what I would say to younger generation as well, that don't listen to anyone, just go do whatever your gut feeling is telling you. Because I mean, by don't listen, I don't mean that like don't ask for advice. Yes, listen. But
just do it.
don't listen to the ones that are telling you that it's not gonna work out because it is gonna work. And then on the way you're gonna make so many mistakes. I think the best way to learn is to learn from your mistakes. Unless you're making some like horrible mistake, which is something that is gonna cause someone's death or something. Obviously we're not going there, right? We're just talking about entrepreneurship. But I'm just saying that even when I was building stuff, there were so many people that would come. They're like, hey, you're a young girl, you don't understand this. This is not your field. You don't have experience in that. And I was like,
Let me do it.
pardon my French, like, just fuck
Is
off.
that French or English?
It is very English. I can say Georgian as well. But I'm just saying, like, leave me alone,
Yeah.
So-
you gotta get these. I mean,
I know,
sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying, with the younger generation, I always try to be like a little bit more like inspirational, but I don't think I can be any more inspiring for younger generation than if you're just being authentic. And by being authentic is like just don't listen to anyone. Just do whatever you want. Make mistakes, fail. There's no such thing as failure if you're learning through the process. So life is beautiful. Just go do you.
You win or you learn, you never lose.
Exactly. I know you have all this list of quotes. His role in this podcast is that he's listening, and whenever he says something that he has a call for, let me jump in. He's like,
Yeah.
That's your commercial code break.
Yeah, I have a list of quotes in my book.
I see, I see, okay.
I learned through this, and I try to help people with all of
For a
this.
business quotation.
exactly.
And there are some originals as well.
Yeah.
This is
I
so
mean-
funny.
But that's the idea, guys. So, I mean, we're nearing the end of our show, and Keta, would you like to add something? Anything
Your
else
future
that you'd like?
plans, what
Because
are you
then
looking
I have
for
a-
now?
I have the final surprise question which I ask
Okay.
every guest.
So what
No,
are-
I mean, like, I think we covered most of the things that I am thinking about, I'm working about, I have on my mind. I'm very excited for what is that you guys are building and what you're doing together. And yeah, I'm just like supporting as much as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank you
again
so
for
much.
inviting.
You're welcome. Not a problem. And once you have the other idea rolling, we'll do another episode.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go for the last question
Yes.
now. And what is grey matter to you?
Gray matter. The thing that comes to my mind is that for many years I thought that world was black and white, and then I realized that there's different shades of gray in between. And I think gray matter for me would be, and I'm actually wearing gray. I didn't even
I
know.
noticed that. I
Gray
noticed
would
that.
be a space of growth and space of making mistakes and learning.
There you go. That's a beautiful answer. That's
The
what I was
best answer,
looking
I
for.
guess.
I believe so far it's the best answer. No disrespect to any of our other guests, but this is great. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll sign out from here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye.